Brother Kadash, giving all praises to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Right, so the title I want to get into is Warriors, right? Because people don't understand this, and this is something that was revealed to me. You know what I mean? I just started thinking about it maybe like a couple days ago, with the whole the whole Chicago drill music. Really not just Chicago, really just the whole drill music. And the drill music comes from the streets, the ghettos and stuff like that. That's where I was born and raised in. It's the streets, what you would call the ghetto, which, if you look up like a definition on it, it speaks about a place where the Jews dwell, which makes sense since the blacks and so-called blacks, Latinos, Native Americans, we are the Israelites, but especially when you talk about the blacks being what you would call a Jew, from the tribe of Judah, so it's spiritual and you can see it. But what I wanted to go into is that every nation of people have a warrior group. What we would say today, we would call them killers. It don't matter what nation on the earth, every nation has, for the most part, like a military or army, but we know that Israel, we don't have that right now, but we do have it in the heavens with the Lord, and that's about to be revealed next, right? But every nation has killers, like even during the time of King David, right? King David was a killer, now not the murder is different than, because you go to law statutes commandments where it says do not murder. That's different than do not kill, because we had examples of King David going to war and slaying, killing thousands, and same thing with King Saul. You know what I mean? This has always happened. When nations go to war, you have killers. So what happened today is that Esau is so clever with it. We have groups of our people, sections of our people that have that warrior mentality, and we call them killers today. That's what you call them in the streets, right? Killers. That's what everybody talk about. I know the killers. I be with all the murderers, the killers, and this and that. And it is a wicked connotation to it too. But what Esau was able to do was turn our killers that would be there to fight against them and risk their life against them and be fearless and fight against the other nations. Esau was able to turn that on ourselves. So now it's like we're just eating ourselves alive and we're just killing ourselves. And that was a very clever trick that Esau was able to do. Turn our killers away from focusing on killing them and warring against them, and turn it on our own self. And they were able to do that with things like hip hop, right? So, and this is what we always say, right? So they say, well, the birth of hip hop wasn't like this. Drill music is horrible, but this is not really hip hop. But see, this is the thing: when you open up doors of wickedness, it could lead to worse wickedness in the future, and that's what we see. So drill music is a product of hip hop, right? So even when you look at, like, I was looking at the whole Chicago thing with the Lil Durk, and he just got arrested, right? And I was thinking about being in his position, and I had to admit to myself, like, that's a very hard position to be in. It's not easy. Like, anybody think, well, I just get in his situation, I would have just walked away, and I'm a multi-millionaire, I'm famous, I would have just walked away and left and went somewhere. But it's hard, bro. Like, you can't tell me, like, if yo if you was in his position, you grew up in the streets and you grew up in the environment that he grew up with, where it was kill or be killed, where it was survival of the fittest, it was poverty, you have nothing, and you just trying to hang on every day not to die, and everybody around you is dying, everybody around you is getting locked up, everybody around you on drugs, and this is all and all you can focus on is getting out. And then people around you start getting killed, like your brother, your cousin, close friends and family, and then you have this other side that's taunting you. We did this, we did that, we did this and did that. It would be so hard to be in that position and to not do what they accuse him of. Is like he called a hit murder for hire. And you got the power to, this person just killed your brother, your blood brother that you love to death, right? Your mom, your family, and you got the power to call a hit on him and get vengeance, I guess, for him, that would be hard not to do. So this my thing, like we come into this truth and then we start acting like we're more holier than everybody and we're better than everybody. But if we being honest, let's be honest. That would be hard not to do. If you was in his position and you had the power, it would be hard not to do that. So that led me to thinking about, okay, it's not that they should get rid of their killer mentality. It's the way that you're using that killer or warrior mentality. Using it against your own people, that's the wickedness. That's the bad part. Because in the Bible, see, this is why we love prophecy, right? Because everybody wants to argue about different topics in the Bible. But you want to know what's the most important, which this even goes into Yahweh Shai, which is prophecy. Yahweh Shai returning, right, to save the children of Israel. What's that? That's one of the biggest prophecies that you can have, right? So you can't really, you can argue about if we in the new covenant, if we not, various different topics. Can a man have multiple wives? Can he not? But one thing you can't argue is you can argue it, but one thing that you can actually get down to the bottom of the truth of is prophecy, right? Because it's going to happen and it's going to be revealed who was wrong or right. You see what I'm saying? That's why I love prophecy so much. So in the Bible, it talks about prophecy that the nation of Israel, right? First of all, northern kingdom and southern kingdom were going to return back together. That's Jeremiah chapter 50, right? Now, Israel is going to fight against other nations. Not only is our Lord going to fight against the other nations and give us power to, but Israel is going to, the Lord is going to, when all hell break loose, the Lord is going to have Jake out there, whether you call them the 2/3, whether you call them the wicked or whatever, but the Lord is going to cause them to fight against the other nations on the street. That's when you're going to have people, nation against nation, people against people. It's going to be Mortal Kombat, every man for himself. It's going to be gangs and stuff coming together, and they're going to be fighting against Edomite militia gangs. This is Bible prophecy. And then even with the righteous, the Lord is going to give us power to come back and subdue the nations too. So not only is the Lord going to fight, but the nation of Israel, they're going to get their hands, they're going to get blood on their hands too, and they're going to fight too. This is Isaiah 63, what it says, who is that come from Basra with dyed garments. So people don't really understand what they're involved in, and what's about to happen. But in order to understand those things, you have to understand prophecy. So let's go into one. This is 2nd Esdras 13. I could get it from the top, but I don't want to make it too long, because this speaks about when the Lord comes back to fight, right? So we always had a warrior class. But what you're seeing in the streets with all the killers and stuff, you're seeing our warrior class pretty much is being used to destroy ourselves. Wherein that warrior class, something's going to happen, and this is Bible prophecy, where that warrior's class is going to turn their mentality and they're going to fight against the other nations, right? So 2nd Esdras 13, and we're going to start at verse 30. And he should come to the astonishment of them that dwell on the earth, right? And one shall undertake and fight against another, one city against another, one place against another, one people against another, and one ram against another. It's like Mortal Kombat, right? That's what Mortal Kombat talks about. One ram against another ram. This guy, Sub-Zero versus, you know what I mean? That's what it talks about. So it's like they get these things from the Bible. Some of the biggest and greatest movies come from Bible prophecy, right? So it's saying right here, like when the Lord comes back, you're going to have people versus people. You're going to have Israelites versus Edomites. You're going to have Edomites versus Moabites. You're going to have Moabites and Edomites teaming up in different locations against Israelites. You're going to have all that going on when all hell break loose. Kind of like The Purge, like when you watch those movies called The Purge, right? Now let's keep going. And the time should be when these things should come to pass, and the sign shall happen which I should show thee before. And then shall my son be declared, who thou sawest as a man ascending, right? This goes to Acts chapter 1, when you saw him ascending. But the same way he ascended, the two men in the white robes, which were angels, they said, look, you should see him descending. You see him returning the same way he ascended. He ascended up into a cloud, but we know that that's talking about a chariot, which is a vehicle. and he's going to return that same way. Right now, it said that these things have to come to pass before we see the Lord returns. So that means Bible prophecy has to be fulfilled before the Lord even comes. It says, and when so some people may say, no, we're not going to fight against the other nations. We're going to fight against the other nations once the Lord come back and he give us the power. Then once the Lord come back and give us the power, then we're going to fight. No, buddy, no. Bible prophecy is the fighting's going to people versus people. That's going to start before the Lord comes back, and it's going to carry on to when the Lord comes back. The only difference is when the Lord comes back, we're going to have that spiritual power, right? That goes into First Corinthians chapter 15. We don't have victory over death. We're going to be changed in the twinkling of the eye. That goes into Revelations 2, where the Lord is going to give us the power that he received of the Father to break the nations in pieces. Let's keep going. It says, verse 33, and when all the people hear his voice, every man shall in their own land leave the battle they have one against another, and an innumerable multitude should be gathered together as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. Now you might say, well, the other nations are going to fight against the Lord. No, well, you're going to have Israelites that's going to be a part of those armies. You got Israelites that's a part of Israelites by the blood, but going into Romans 2, you got to be an Israelite inwardly too. But you got Israelites that are Israelites by blood. You got Jews by blood, right? That are in the U.S. military right now. That's going to be important. You've seen Independence Day. Will Smith will be an Israelite. You're going to have Israelites like that that's going to fight, which Independence Day is based on the Bible. Actually, Independence Day, if I go back to 2nd Esdras chapter 13 and I go back to verse 1 and read down to like verse 11 or 12, that's what Independence Day is literally based off of. You see what I'm saying? Basically directly took from this and other parts of the Bible, like Revelations chapter 12, right? So yeah, it's showing you that you're going to have Israelites that's going to be a part of these armies that's going to also fight against the Lord. They're going to be destroyed too. But the difference is they will come back in the kingdom, right? Now let's keep going. Because you're going to have rebels that's going to be Israelites that's going to be destroyed. You got the whole 2/3 parable that's going to be destroyed. Let's keep going. Verse 34. And an innumerable multitude should be gathered together as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. But he shall stand upon the top of Mount Zion, right? Because then you're going to have, going back to 2nd Esdras, I believe it's 2 or 5, where you're going to have the elect. And Zion shall come and shall be showed to all men, being prepared and built like as thou sawest the hill graven without the hand. So the elect is going to get that power. And this, my son, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations, which for their wicked life are fallen into tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts and the torment wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law, which is like unto fire, right? Okay, so let's go to this next one. This 2nd Esdras 15, and we're going to get this one from verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. What's that? Well, today the modern day sword is guns in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and evading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor their princes. In the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And man shall desire to go in the city and shall not be able. So this is what you're going to see, right? For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and man shall be afraid. So that's what you're going to see. You're going to see, really, when all hell break loose, right away, I believe that you're going to see Israelites fighting against Israelites. Of course, you're going to have gang action going on. When there's no police, these gangs are going to be, sliding on each other and all that and getting vengeance on their ops. But I think over time, once they wipe each other out, you're going to have like nations start to band together against other nations. You know what I mean? When they could go take over mansions and take whatever they need because they ganged up, I think Israel will realize that it's probably more profitable to be together, and then they will start fighting against the other nations, right? And that's usually what you see. It start off gang, and then it'll go to nation, and you're gonna get that. Actually, let's get a quick precept on that too. This is the book of Obadiah. If I could get to it. Chapter 1, verse 18. This is a future prophecy too. Well, I'll just start verse 17 to get some context. But upon Mount Zion shall be deliverance, and there shall be holiness, and the house of Jacob shall possess their possessions. Right? And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stumble. So when you say the house of something, you're saying the people of Jacob. And you're saying the people of Joseph, which is just referring to the Israelites as a whole, the 12 tribes. And then when it says the house of Esau, it's saying the people of Esau for stumble. So what's going to happen if you got to put it together? If Jacob is a flame and Joseph is a flame or a fire, and Esau's for stumble, then what caused the house of Esau to be stumble? Well, it would be that Jacob was a fire and the house of Joseph was a flame. So how does that look in real life? Well, it looks like Jacob with the Israelites, right, destroying the house of Esau, right, physically. And we say mystery Babylon is America. So what it looks like is the Israelites, so-called black and brown people in America, so-called Israelites, blacks and Native Americans, Latinas, are going to come together and they're going to destroy America in the inside from fighting against Esau, which is so-called white man, right? It says, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, because we're here. We're here in them. They say they're in the majority and we're the minority. We're in them. But it says we're going to devour them, and there should not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it. And then going on even into the future, they're going to go into captivity, and then eventually there's not going to be any remaining. That's prophecy. So that's the difference between us and like Christians. It's like we respect prophecy. They don't. They look at all this and say it means nothing. And then they'll go and then, say they worship Jesus and that's it. And then all the rest of this means nothing. Well, you have to respect prophecy. You can't look at the prophecy and say, okay, well, I do respect it, but it says this in the New Testament. Then that's not you respecting the prophecy no more. You have to be able to put it all together. You must eat the whole roll. That's Ezekiel chapter 3, Revelations, I believe, chapter 2. You got to eat the whole book. You got to eat the whole roll. And you got to be able to put it all together. You can't take one part and then worship that one part and say, well, this is my understanding of it. Your understanding also. And then this is another problem I have. I have a problem with people that go to the New Testament and then they say, well, if the Old Testament don't match up with what I believe is in the New Testament, then that means that the Old Testament is wicked. They even try to say that. They say that it's two different gods. They say it's one God of the Old Testament, which is a different God than the God of the New Testament, because the God of the New Testament acts a different way than the God of the Old Testament. And then they say the God of the Old Testament was wicked. It was really Satan. It's some bullshit. When we go to Luke, what was that? Luke, I believe it's Luke 19, where the Lord says, whoever would not worship me, bring them here and kill them before me. How does that not match up with the Old Testament? The God of the Old Testament. How does it not match up when he say, I should give you power in Revelations 2 to break the nations in shivers? How does it not match up with Revelations 13, where it says those that kill with the sword must be killed with the sword? You see, so they just take one piece and then they try to worship it, but that's a different story for a different day, right? So Matthew's, let's jump, this is the last one. Matthew's 24, just showing you prophecy that there's going to be fighting, right? There's going to be killings. There's going to be wars. Matthew's 24, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake, right? So even there's going to be, even the Israelites, the ones that follow the Lord, you're going to have people hating them and persecuting them and trying to kill them, right? And then shall many be offended and shall betray one another and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because the iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Let's go back here to Psalms chapter 90. I'm giving you the prophecies of what's finna go down, man, and how life is going to be. This is Psalms 91, right? It tells you, it says, I'm going to skip straight to the point. Verse 5, thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night. So that indicates that there's going to be terror at night. It's just saying that you should not be afraid of it. Nor for the arrow that flies by day, right? Nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. Watch this. 1,000 shall fall at thy side and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come to thee. What's going to cause 10,000 people to die in an instant at your side? Like, I mean, you could be strolling downtown, right? You could be on an electric scooter downtown, and what's going to cause 10,000 people just to die instantly? Do we call that a nuclear bomb, or just a regular bomb could come down and Russia could shoot a bomb over here, or a missile, and then 10,000 people die in an explosion, and you might be right next to it. The shock wave might hit you, but you just survived it. You see what I'm saying? So it's showing you what's going to be happening in these different places, you know. But the elect is going to be saved, because this is going to be the reward of the wicked, and this is what's about to come. But we have to endure through it. Now, you're not going to just, you're not just going to be just, some people may be put up somewhere, but it's not like you're going to get beamed up before all destruction happens. The Lord going to come snatch you up. No, you're going to be, it ain't like you're going to be translated up before all hell breaks loose. We're going to be here doing Jacob's trouble. We're going to be translated up before the complete destruction of America, which is going to be the second death by fire and brimstone. With that, I'm going to say salvation to the elect.